sit on the board, and then I also organize the compliance and governance. Now I help to make use of the Singapore business environment to help business owners pretty much in most countries um, have a base from Singapore so that they can turn their business to be a global entity. There are many benefits about why it is very important and very beneficial to have Singapore as a base. And today the topic is why Singapore should be a permanent establishment for you. So I like to quickly begin, with a very simple share screen. And I like to begin with a simple 3-minute video. And so this video was recently made, and but it tells you about why Singapore is who we are today. It just gives you a bit of a background. And so for those who are not on the video, you can just listen in. No need to see the images. So I'll just play this video for the next 3 minutes. Rajiv, if you cannot hear
Yeah.
this, let me know.
How is it possible that a tiny little
We
island nation with almost no natural resources and limited political freedom is actually one of the wealthiest in the world? And what does it tell us about how nations become truly wealthy? Singapore is so small, you can drive across the entire country in about an hour. Despite its size and lack of resources, Singapore has a GDP per capita of over $97,000 per person, which is double that of any other country in the region. And the country's 5.4 million residents enjoy one of the highest standards of living, according to the Human Development Index. So, how this little island gets so rich? Well, while Singapore doesn't have many natural resources, it does sit in the middle of one of the most important trade routes in the world. But location alone really doesn't explain the wealth. After all, there's several other countries that are also in that area and have access to the same Southeast Asian shipping lanes. So many have tried to chalk up Singapore's success to direct government action. Things like requiring citizens to save, investing in infrastructure, and government housing policy. The problem with this explanation is that there's a lot of governments that have tried similar policies, but they don't have the same kind of economic prosperity or upward economic mobility that Singapore has, despite the fact that a lot of those other countries have advantages Singapore does not. So consider this. Until 1965, Singapore was actually just a part of Malaysia. After gaining independence from the UK in the 1950s, the Malaysian government focused on implementing widespread government control over the economy and imposed a series of affirmative action programs that favored Malays over ethnic minorities. Now, Singapore opposed both of these measures, and the divide grew so large that the Malaysian parliament voted unanimously to kick out Singapore in 1965. The new independent Singapore, led by Lee Kuan Yew, focused on things like preventing crime and corruption, protecting property rights, sound fiscal and monetary policy, legal transparency, and free trade, all of which are critical for a robust economic environment. But it's when you take a closer look at the government position toward overall economic policy that you see major distinctions between itself and other nations, both in the region and the rest of the world. Just take a look at the tax structure in Singapore. The top personal income tax rate stands at just 22%. They have a corporate tax rate of 17%, which is very low. No estate tax, and no capital gains tax. To give you an idea of what all of this means, the overall individual tax burden in Singapore is half of what it is in the United States. Inflation, half of what it is in the United States. And when it comes to government spending and deficits, Singapore has a deficit 20 times lower than the US. This business-friendly environment has led to explosive economic growth, the scale of which is truly astounding. Today, the per person is 300 times over the global average, and it has one of the highest GDPs per capita in the world. So, while good governance has certainly contributed to Singapore's success, it's been its emphasis on creating the freest economy in the world, which has empowered entrepreneurs and the people of Singapore to prosper and thrive.
So thanks for looking through that. Basically, what that says is extremely true. I like the video a lot. Actually, I just read it yesterday, but I like that video a lot. So it's been recently made. As you can see, there's only like 1,000 views on there. So what he says is that Singapore focuses, on being a freer economy, than many countries around the world to be where we are today. So what that means is that because of our position, we know that our position doesn't, as in geographical position, doesn't suffice alone. We have to make use of all the services in the country which is mainly the financial services in the country, and all the government policies that allows us to utilize these financial services freely to be where we are today. So just to perhaps recap, the permanent establishment that I'm trying to establish for Singapore means that it doesn't mean that you're physically here, because if you read the permanent establishment definition, it simply means that it is a place of management, which is, you can say that it's quite vague. Place of management would simply mean that there's decisions that needs to happen, or important decisions for the company, that needs to happen from Singapore. And in these days, we can do that, remotely from pretty much anywhere. Now, the benefits of having a permanent place of establishment, in Singapore is then to enjoy the free economy status that Singapore has to offer for your business. So how does that translate to the business, to your business back home? So this means that if you, for example, a simple buy sell, product, buy sell service, or buy sell, human capital, a simple buy sell happening here from Singapore, you will then enjoy, all these, percentages that you see in the video just then, no capital gains tax, no, low taxes, no dividends tax, no estate tax, so all that kind of thing. Now, to be even able to enjoy the low percentage of these kinds of things, you firstly need to have money coming in, right? And this is where the financial services systems and government policies, comes in now. So that's why for every business in Singapore, to be able to turn them to be a global entity, it becomes quite straightforward. Because all they do is to receive an account, multi-currency account that they can use to hold their foreign currency. And in Singapore, it's extremely efficient to do so. We're all on the SWIFT system, so the account will be on the SWIFT system. You can build in any of these foreign currencies and keep them, as opposed to many developing countries whereby their government policies are different. They don't allow the holding of foreign currencies, for the normal netizens. In Singapore, it's the other way around. Our business model is, different to the developing countries. Even though we rely on, foreign currencies as well, to thrive, but the source of these foreign currencies is not from people. The source of foreign currencies is not from the people of the country selling their products or services to be able to receive these foreign currencies. It is not. Because our central bank here has a different business model of utilizing, fixed income to receive, foreign currencies. Because we are 300 times, over in terms of GDP, or very much richer compared to other nations. Our fixed currency reserve is the fourth or fifth largest in the world. What that means is that they utilize, this foreign currency reserve to invest in other countries, invest in fixed income, invest in bonds, invest in these kinds of things. It is different from what China is doing. China is actively, giving a loan, to countries themselves, so that they can use that privately, you can call it, on their own, projects. Singapore doesn't do that. Singapore invests in fixed income bonds, corporate bonds, government bonds, these kinds of things, right? So, and that's why the returns will always be fixed unless the country defaults, which happens once in a while, obviously, but on a general sense, it doesn't really happen. So that's why the returns will always come back, right? The returns will always be fixed. The returns are as safe as as what it is. The returns are not big, obviously, but because our currency reserves are big, the returns will then obviously be exponentially big. So this means that our foreign currency reserve is so big that we have to let go of foreign currencies, and we have to even give away foreign currencies to the local governments here for them to spend. It is unheard of, in today's environment, whereby our central bank gives money to the local government for them to spend because we got too much. That is exactly what is happening. Free, right? Usually it's a swap. So when you have this kind of environment that comes together, you will then understand that Singapore then is the place for your business to firstly hold money, right? Singapore is a place for your business to keep the money, and Singapore is also the place for your business to transfer money out, come in and out. Singapore is also the place for your business, because you're able to hold, keep, send money. It's also the place for you then to go out to the world and utilize these facilities that you have, right? So, and then all the other, percentage was then, complete the story, the low tax here and there, that kind of thing. So that is accentuated by agreements that we have signed with India and a few other countries as well. India one is a especially good one, whereby we have extensive agreements with many of these countries, including India. But our India agreement is a very special one, which is called the SECA. What that means is that specifically under the SECA, we have a lot of tariffs that is being reduced, for Singapore companies' products to be priced more competitively than India's large consumer market. So this means that if you did what this means is that if you bring in products into India from Singapore, there's a lot of tariffs that can be saved. Simply, that is what that means, right? So also they give preferential access to investors and etc. in and out between Singapore and India. So this means that if money is parked here from India into Singapore, there is a special way of protecting this money under the SECA agreement, right? So and then all the other normal percentages would then fall in. All the low no dividends tax, low capital gains tax, all the if you pay taxes in Singapore and then you don't pay the same in India, all that would then fall in. And then the key thing here of enjoying all these benefits still falls back to having your entity become a permanent establishment, because without being a PE, you cannot enjoy this, right? If you are a shell company or a holding company without any a form of management here in Singapore, then you will likely not be able to enjoy all these benefits that we have. So, I've been going out to, companies from India and, also a lot of countries just to help them to establish very simple businesses, right? Very simple buy sell businesses. I've got a lot of clients in my portfolio whereby they use the Singapore company only as a place of management to provide manpower. None of their manpower are in Singapore. They don't even have a physical office here. They have clients sitting around the world. Their employees come from places like India, Philippines, and etc. They only use the Singapore company to receive the money and then pay out. That is all they do, actually. That is simply what they do. It's the simplest form of business that anybody can get. And that is why this kind of business is very evident in my mom and dad's age, whereby before the dot-com era, before the digital era, all of them are doing this kind of businesses. It's only buy sell, right? So they will buy goods, buy products, buy services, including companies like us, whereby we are still company secretaries by training. But because we know how the numbers work, we also set up our own trading companies, to buy sell something, right? That is all it is, actually. So they use the Singapore company to churn money in and out. As long as they keep getting contracts, money comes in, money goes out, that is good enough. And before, during the mom and dad's age, trust becomes an important issue. So before there were lesser scams or lesser these kinds of things going on. If a supplier is somebody that they can trust, then they are very happy to do business with them. They will continue to do so. So their quality of life back in the mom and dad's days was outstanding. There was no talk of mental stress and mental illness or this kind of thing rather than you have now. So all these things that I'm trying to tell you guys today, even though the benefits of Singapore still falls within the same sort of lines, the business model still doesn't really need to change. Maybe it's a way that you execute the business model needs to change. Instead of selling goods, you're now selling services. Instead of selling people, you're selling maybe better people. These kinds of things. However, the mentality, the general sense of the how the money comes in and out still needs to be very strictly understood, or very very simple. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So that's the main gist of what I'm trying to tell you guys about today. And Rajiv.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I think very insightful, and you already have spoken a lot about how to do business in Singapore. So we have a few people here who may be interested in. Aditya, you had some questions last time we discussed. So can you discuss with Juan?
Yeah, it continues to be the same questions about, should it be, like one mentioned, that as long as money is being churned and not just a company which is like a holding company, that's the stage to be at. So, if we're pre-revenue, that was basically the question on whether it's the right time to form an entity. And I was also looking at certain venture capital firms if they had a preference for a Singapore registration. I think a lot of the companies have a preference for a Delaware company. I was looking out for a lot of VCs out there who prefer a Singapore entity to an Indian entity. So if you do have a list, kindly do share that, because that's the stage where we're looking for the pre-series A with some VC firms.
I think Aditya, I already shared with you that if you come into Singapore and set up, you will have a list that it looks like, maybe nowadays it's close to 1,000 VCs that you can engage. Part of what I do also is to give you 3,000. There are a lot more than this number. There are a lot more than this number. So I'm also going to give you 3,000 of such VC companies that you can actually engage with from Singapore as part of my work. So the package that I gave you, it's the same thing last time, Aditya. It hasn't really changed. Is that I will provide you a company, I'll provide you an account, I'll provide you 3,000 customers or investor leads. I'll provide you with training about how to get continuously engage with them, because you're global. You're now a global entity, able to receive VC investments from pretty much any country in the world who's able to transact in G7 currencies. Your VC environment would then be, not just in Singapore, Aditya. So you can go out to the States, if they are able to send money, then, then you can potentially transact with them. So I'm going to, your demography is maybe 50,000, 80,000, but I'm only going to give you 3,000 is a lot, a lot. So, nonetheless, set up the company, enter into this particular ecosystem, which is the Startup SG ecosystem, get access to the entire 1,000, and then I'll give you 3,000.
Thank you for that. Thanks, Juan. Amazing presentation too.
So, Atul, you have some questions for Juan?
Yeah. Hi, Juan. Atul Gupta this side.
Yes, hi.
Yeah. So, Han, I wanted to understand that what is the taxation on the GST front there? What is the rate of taxation? And is it only one slab of taxation, or is this basically a different slab on the GST side?
Sorry, what does DST mean?
Yeah, VAT.
VAT.
Oh, VAT. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at the beginning in Singapore, there's no VAT or GST. We have a GST of 7%, but that only applies if you bring goods into Singapore. This means that you clear customs, right? Or you supply directly into the companies into Singapore. But if you don't do that, you don't need to charge GST, right? You don't need to charge VAT. So, you don't even need to account for them if you are billing out from Singapore. So if, your revenue is maybe 3 million, you supply manpower, however, your customers are, none of them are in this Singapore. And, your employees are also not in Singapore. So in this case, you don't charge GST, right? You will pay a corporate tax of 17%, right? But you don't put in the GST component in there because you don't bring, goods and services, in and out of Singapore.
Okay, but what is the the VAT rate for the local consumption?
There's no VAT. There's only GST, 7%.
Yes, yeah, 7%.
Hmm.
So effectively, 7% is the consumption tax. Is that right?
That's correct. Our GST system works the same way as your GST system, zero rated, especially if we export out. Right? So that's the reason India is a bit complicated, because when you export out, you still need to account for the GST, right? You still need to put it in there because there's a local element, right? So, however, Singapore is different. Singapore, we don't pay staff on GST. There's no GST when you pay people, right? So, what that means is that, if you hire a team here in Singapore and then you're exporting your services out of Singapore, you don't technically need to pay the GST component to employees. So if you're exporting your services out to a customer sitting in the US, there is no GST there, right? There's no GST there, unless maybe you have an company that you're working with here in Singapore, and then they charge you GST, So that means that your cost will, increase by 7%. However, you're likely not going to get that 7% back unless you increase the cost of that, service that you're exporting out to Singapore, right? So that is what is happening here. We don't really need to account for it. India, you do. You need to account for it, right? Internally, externally, you need to account for it. GST must be there, right? But in Singapore, it's not necessarily the case. Also, with the first 1 million, if you are less than 1 million in revenue, or you really don't need to account for it. We don't even need to know that. So you don't even need to account for it. So after 1 million, then you decide whether you're in the situation or you need to, account for the GST. Depending on where your goods are, where your goods, where your supplies are, and etc. That is only when you decide. At the beginning, you need to decide.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Juan, I had another question. India recently came out with a ruling for virtual digital assets. These are the NFTs and crypto assets that are used in the metaverse in our industry. Has Singapore come out with a ruling for this, and how would Singapore deal with virtual digital assets? Because these are not physical assets. These could be interpreted as coming into Singapore and going out. So, would they be taxed? And is the government planning any kind of ruling on how it's going to deal with this kind of asset class?
Yeah, we are very specific about it. The asset class needs to be broken down. Crypto is crypto. NFT is NFT. So we are very specific about it. At the moment, there's no rules for NFT. People widely sell the NFT products here in Singapore. There's no tax. They receive the money. There's no tax, whatever. So it's extremely, free to do this kind of business. But it may change later down the line. If it gets a lot popular, and then it may change later down the line. On the crypto side, again, there's still no GST that needs to be added or capital gains that needs to be paid or etc. The rules around crypto would simply be that you cannot sell your crypto product because it is a financial product. They classify crypto as being a financial product, rightly so. NFT is not a financial product for now. So this means that you can still it's better not to launch your digital token if you are going out, if you are going to the public, here in Singapore, right, under your Singapore company, because it may come back to bite you. You are not regulated under the MES, selling your digital product, right? So, however, a good thing about having a Singapore company here, is that you are able to open merchant accounts at some of the crypto exchanges here in Singapore. Now, the crypto exchanges here in Singapore are top-notch ones. So the MES here will only regulate crypto exchanges like Crypto.com and these guys that have passed through various and very strict KYC internal procedures, right? So they are very, very strict about these kinds of things. So if they are able to get a license from them and then they have a merchant account facility, that is something that you are very safe on. Feel free to open a merchant account on the company and then hold your cryptocurrencies there. We've got one or two providers that have already done so. So that is something that's beneficial, very beneficial. I have another package under the exempt, not an exempt plan, but under the holding plan, whereby we allow people under their company to set up merchant accounts, brokerage accounts, for example, with IB, merchant accounts with crypto exchanges, these kinds of things. These are extremely valuable here in Singapore because there are these kinds of accounts all regulated under the Central Bank of Singapore. This means that any losses, any default, and all that is extremely protected. So if you're able to open merchant accounts, this is not going to be under the table.
And is Mr. Bajaj's company aware of this other package as well?
Sorry, who?
We would be operating through Mr. Bajaj's company in contacting you, right?
No, that Aditya, whatever details you require, yes, we can share with you.
So the holding account details, are you aware of?
Yeah. We okay. have. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Okay, Han, I want to just clarify, like being an Indian citizen, if I take this holding the account thing, so can I, is there any investment tax on crypto or NFTs in Singapore?
No, there's no.
None.
Yeah, no. We don't charge for capital gains tax unless your business is deemed to be a trading company. So for example, if you let's take the example of a crypto trading, not a business, but you may have cash in your company in Singapore that you want to invest in crypto, right? And then you take the gains from the crypto investment. That amount that you make is not taxed. However, if you are going to be making that every day, right, making in buy sell, then that is a trading business. So we need to be very careful about that. Same thing goes for stocks and shares, right? If you're going to buying stocks and shares under your company in the company name, if you do that often enough, you are a trading business, right? So you have to pay tax on the capital, the gains that you make from the trading business. However, if you're only going to be buying and then holding, and then maybe exiting, after 6 months or a year, then that is not a trading business. So you really have to be very sort of we need to be the judge of that. I mean, we all need to be the judge of that. The board needs to make a decision about whether you want to be a trading business or just an investment business. Yeah.
Okay, so the buying and holding thing can be done through a company setup, or it can be done by individual also.
No, it can't be done by an individual if you don't have a residency status here. So if you have a
Okay.
residency status like an EP or Entrepreneur, then you can set up your own personal, account with crypto.com or interactive brokers and etc. Because you are a residency, in Singapore. If you don't have that, you can't set it up, in your personal capacity. You can set up in your personal capacity, but they will judge you based on your Indian status.
Means all the gains that I will make will be come under Indian financial rules.
That's correct. That's correct. It will only happen when you're a tax residency. So,
Okay.
in this case, the Singapore company, because you have a company in Singapore, this company in Singapore is regarded as a tax resident of Singapore. So any main gains that you make, from the company is then regarded under Singapore laws for the corporate tax side. However, on your personal capacity, if you want to do the same thing, then you obviously got to be a tax resident of Singapore, right?
No, I didn't get the last part.
So on the company side, if you want to do open accounts, and do trading, in stocks and cryptos and etc., then the rules for that will fall under the tax residency of the company status. So this means that the company, is a tax resident of Singapore.
Right.
So this means that the company will not have capital gains tax and etc. They will enjoy all that kind of thing, right? However, for you to do the same thing in your personal capacity, you also need to be a tax resident of Singapore. The same thing applies.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a difference between you and the company, right? So I should.
That's correct.
I think
Strict difference.
you
Yeah,
got it.
clear difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's another question by CA Harshil Goel Juan. He says, can we have a holding company in Singapore and still operating everything from India? And also he said, and what can be the ideal size of the company to move their base to Singapore based on your experience?
A holding company you can operate remotely from anywhere. Not an issue, right? The the ideal size to move their base to Singapore based on your experience. Now, I think we can take a step back. Why do you want to? What does moving the base mean? So does that mean that you will hold your balance sheet here under the Singapore entity, or does that mean that you'll move your people here physically in the office here? So if it's the second one, then obviously the capital expenditure is a lot because it's not cheap, right? So if it's the first one, then you got to think about why you're going to do that at all, actually. Why do we need to put in the balance sheet here? For example, if it's for investment reason, your investors are wants to see a balance sheet, and then they maybe if you put your balance sheet under the Singapore company, you will get access to a global pool of investors. Then yes, that is a good idea to move your balance sheet, to Singapore. There is no minimum size. Our paid out capital starts from $1. So you can. There's no
Okay.
minimum size.
Actually, my question was from the perspective we are working with a lot of startups, right? And we believe that the core objective of shifting their base from India to Singapore can be probably the richness about the investors. Investors will feel more comfortable in joining the Singapore entity instead of Indian entity. So that's where we are looking forward to understand, for example, what can be a size. For example, we should start everything from Singapore if a new startup is coming, or we should talk to them like that, that okay, once you have raised one or two round of investment, then you should plan something like that where you can move your things to Singapore. What should be the ideal case?
I guess there's no fixed rule about this. It depends on what the startup situation or startup company situation is. If they have zero, in their current balance sheet right now, and they are looking for seed capital, right? So maybe it's better to do that from India first, right? So because seed capital doesn't usually involve a lot of money, they can do their friends and family rounds back in India, right, and then fulfill that. However, if they're going institutional, right, then maybe that's when a good time to come out and then become a Singapore company and then go to the institutional investors. So I think Aditya's case is quite relevant here. he has a company that is operating now already in India, and then now he's thinking about trying to reach out to institutional corporates. Now that's a good time to come out of Singapore because a lot of corporates are here. We have 1,000
Yes.
corporate investors, 1,000 corporate institutional investors, and these are only ones that is accredited by the government. We have a lot of ones that are not accredited by the government, but also licensed by the government. So you add another 1,000 to that. So these kinds of things, there's a good reason, to move out to Singapore and then hold a balance sheet here and then, perform your investor relations work and then, tell the world that, you are a Singapore entity and then, share with them the benefits of your balance sheet. That is a good idea.
Understood. That helps.
Yeah, because it entirely, Herschel, depends on the situation. But as I think Juan mentioned, better to have a seed capital in India and build a company. And then when you are at a stage where you need a pre-series A or series A, move to Singapore for institutional investors.
Understood. Rajiv, let's connect and discuss about this. We have
Yeah, sure,
working with a lot of startups, so let's plan out something in this,
sure.
because some of the companies are looking forward to go in this direction.
Definitely.
So I guess just feel free to ask me if there's any questions today. But nonetheless, Rajiv, you have all these links that I've shared with you many times. Feel free to send them an email. I think the same email that I sent you many times before, the thank you and all this and
Yes.
that
Sure.
same long email. Feel free to send them that because it contains all the links here.
Right.
But otherwise, this is what I sell. It's an entire package. Not really not trying to be salesy here, but this is what I put together in terms of what I feel is beneficial for business owners like yourself. I used to start charging for opening a company, but now I don't do that. So I charge for entire package of what I believe is beneficial for you. So under the exempt plan means that you have a company limited by shares that you own here in Singapore. Exempt plan means that it is only individual shareholders. Corporate shareholder is another separate matter because corporate shareholders have got more compliance requirements, including auditing. So we always advocate to start with individually first, right? So you are your own individual shareholder, and then under that individual shareholder, obviously you get all the compliance work, which I don't need to mention. All that thing is covered by me, So, but on the other side, work with me on the business. We will conduct board meetings, 30 minutes at a time, 2 to 4 times a month. I will go through a series of very structured, session. We always start with a niche marketing exercise. I will position your product or service, one of them, to a global audience. That is extremely important because we need scale, right? Singapore is a place to have scale, and we need to identify what that product or service is to have scale. So I don't do mobile app, So we think you're specific about what that mobile app is, for example. So we will go through this exercise. Happy to do this anytime. 7 to 9 questions. Go through your product or service. We will identify a global demography. For example, it'll be quite specific. CTOs in XXX. CMOs in Y. CEOs in this, and this kind of thing. Very, very specific. Because you are all going to get a global pool. Now, Singapore, you cannot rely on Singapore alone because our market, in essentially the numbers, it's extremely small. So we don't have 5,000 CEOs. We don't have 5,000 CMOs. We don't have that. Our market is small. So you need to marry the Singapore audience with the global audience. So that is why the global demography will give you, say, for example, 80,000. I will provide you 3,000. Right? I will start you off with 3,000 upload into this list here. It may come from Singapore, depending on your preference, but I will upload 3,000 here. And then once that happens, I will also teach you how to get access to the entire, global pool. For example, if your global pool is 80,000, good. I will teach you how to get access to the entire pool, right? And then you do your own marketing. I do not do the marketing for you. This is where people like our chief and all that can help you, to maybe do some very simple marketing. It's not difficult. I do a lot of, very simple email marketing. Help you to write a cold email or this kind of thing, which can still exist. I can still exist, but I need you to press the send button. That is what I'm trying to say. So you will get into a situation of sending, adding contacts, and speaking. Hopefully, you get to speak to a lot of people, and then bring those comments back. I will teach you various programs, such as things like this. SICA is one program. Grants for Innovation is another program. So there are a lot of programs here in Singapore. I'll never be able to cover them. So, it will, as and when you come out, depending on who you speak to, I will be able to recommend one or two of these to you so that you can choose your customer. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to your customer, So the benefit will still happen to your customer. You just have knowledge of it. so that you can better close them. So that will happen, through a revolving process, 30 minutes a time, 2 to 4 times a month. So this is what you own, and then that's it, I guess. I think what I really want to share at the end of today is that I really have many customers that I work with. I've got actually a lot of reviews. I'm happy to share with you some very very good reviews. Even some very. Let me quickly share my screen. There is. I'll just go straight down to stop the printing. Let's show you another screen. And now window. There it is. So I speak to my clients on the dashboard of WhatsApp. Koi is one of them. He's based in Vietnam. He's been only with me for a few weeks, but he's already thanking me. So he thanked me many times actually. So he's got clients from not clients, demos from IBM because he sells this data analytics products. He sells. There it is. He sells. There it is. He's got demos with this. It also feels good that you see this kind of comments. It feels good, and then I just put a demo. This is awesome. So things like this come from Coin. I get that quite a lot because it works, right? So it's very simple, but it works. So I feel excited and I feel good for people like him. So I'm happy to help many others do the same process. Right?
Nice. Thank you, Juan. I think we have on the call Mr. Pradeep Bajaj. Bajaj Sahab, you can also share your views. Yeah.
Uh, Thanks, Raji, for having me here. You are aware that I met you when I was doing something about the training
Right.
and development of the content and all.
Absolutely.
So currently, I think I've sent a text message also. Along with my son, we are into golf equipment. So we
Okay.
have a small organization which is into golf equipment, coaching, and servicing of the golf equipment and
Great.
accessories.
Great.
So that's why I was wondering. So Juan is here. So and with all of you all with so much experience. So I'm a soldier, so I have very limited experience on business. So if there opportunities that you can tell us about in Southeast Asia or of course in India, I'll be grateful.
Sure, sir.
Thank you, Rajiv.
I think golfing is very popular in Singapore, but not only Singapore, in Malaysia and other countries I have been moving around. So sure, we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the process is always the same. I will always go through this, at the beginning. Position one product or service for a global demography, for example, golf enthusiasts, and then we'll go from there, right? So in your case, you may be, because you're a wholesaler, you may go out to the retailers in the golf industry. So we'll be very specific at it. You firstly have to be confident of your products or service, which you will after answering these 7 to 9 questions. Once you are confident of your products or services, that's why the questions like this are tuned towards your customer. They're not tuned to you. They're tuned to what value you bring to the other party. And that's why we'll be very specific about who the other party is after you answer these questions. If there's no value, we'll have to work on it. So after the end of this particular exercise, we'll know exactly, why this is a audience that you must engage with. And then after that, you will feel confident that this is your pool of customers, and then you will then start the process of doing your own engagement. That is what usually happens. And that is why it works.
Okay, Juan, essentially we are retailers. So we
Yeah.
also provide services. We pick up the used golf sets, provide value to it.
Okay. So same thing, you can still work with me on that, niche market positioning, and then we will identify a global audience that would likely buy or your product or service. We're likely to be able to do that. I'll teach you how to do so.
Yeah, Juan, this is Vivek here. I have a question. So I had a startup. I have a startup. It's right now shelved. Uh, it's a B2C startup in air quality domain, and we were at an incubator over here, and we tried to develop the product. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to get funds via crowdfunding. Now it's a hardware company, so there is a significant amount of capital expenditure that is there in the beginning, and one cannot get that kind of money from friends and family. So we were trying to take the crowdfunding route, and we prepared everything. And unfortunately, just a month before we were going to launch our campaign, Indiegogo, the site, stopped Indian companies from start crowdfunding on their website. And no global company does it. No go like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and nobody does it. So I just wanted to understand: do companies take this route also, that I can shift the base of my company from Delhi to Singapore and then go the crowdfunding route, because it's a B2C product? It provides validation and other things. And is that possible, and how difficult would that be?
It's not difficult. So we have a few hundred licensed crowdfunders here in Singapore. All your Indiegogo and all these guys are here in Singapore. So of course
Okay.
they will not work with Indian registered companies because you can't. So
Right.
so they have to work with companies that they can work with, such as Singapore ones. So so
Okay.
just having your business registered here in Singapore and then putting a balance sheet together, they cannot crowdfund a zero company. You have to put
Okay.
a very simple balance sheet together, what assets you have, etc. And then go to them and then just tell them about your business and then close crowdfunding agreement and then have them put your company up, for the purpose of crowdfunding. So this means that your business becomes a global business just from these channels alone. Now,
Right.
because they are able to take in investments from pretty much everywhere, right? So,
Yes. Yes.
they will then go out to, or you can promote, your crowdfunding on your own pages, together with them, and then you can close, people everywhere around the world for this. Money will come back to you after a fee that you have to pay to, place people like Indiegogo and all that. But
Yes.
at least you have an avenue.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I got cut off.
Okay. Okay.
So I got cut off. I hope you can hear me now,
Yeah, yeah.
Rajiv.
Yes, we can.
One, okay.
We can.
I got cut off when I was trying to say that our organization is e-commerce organization. Our stakeholders are essentially the clients, the players. So they are the ones who buy and sell. Of course, more than that, there are people who are students and so on, trainees who may be our stakeholders. So the institutions who want to teach their people the golf or golf courses. So essentially, we are into retailing, not the
I
wholesaling.
understand. So, Pradeep, I guess what you will also benefit from is the ability to have accounts that, so it looks like this, whereby you're able to receive foreign currencies like USD or Euro into this account that belongs to you under your Singapore company. This one here is not available in Singapore, in India. It is available in India, but it doesn't have the same functions as India, right? Because this allows really you to keep the currency. So you connect this to things like Stripe and all that, when you do your e-commerce. So you do your, social media marketing or whatever, sell your, equipment to the world, and then receive the money from Stripe that comes back into this account. You keep it, keep that currency. There's no conversion. It only converts when you want to convert, right? So you convert that particular currency, USD, into the local Indian rupees, pay yourself or pay your supplier. That is how the money will flow. So you need to be very careful and understand how the money will come in. Now, this particular company I'm showing you right now, it is an e-commerce company. They've already transferred large sums in and out. So just having this account alone is really benefits them. So they sell fashion accessories or fashion wear, around globally. So this person is not even based in Singapore. This person is staying somewhere in Bali enjoying the sun. So, however, they are using this particular account to do a global business. Same thing will happen to you, buddy.
Thanks, so thanks.
So, Pradeep ji, I'll have a call, set up a call with you, and we can discuss,
Yeah,
how to take
sure.
it forward. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else with any questions, please? One. And Vivek, I think you have a good, scope of expanding in Singapore. And as Huan mentioned,
Yeah.
that'll solve the problem which you are facing of crowdfunding. No, so surely, my number is there in the chat window, so you can connect. with us.
Yeah. Well.
All right.
Excellent. So I guess if there's no more questions, then I wish you a
Yeah.
good
So
Sunday.
anybody with any last minute
Thank you. Have a
discussion?
nice weekend
Yeah.
and a golf round.
So
Thank you.
any
Alright.
anybody with any last minute questions for Juan? We still have 10 minutes. Anyone? Atul?
I'm done.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, Human. I think that was very insightful, and as always, you are very clear in your communication and thoughts you shared with us. And definitely, Singapore has a huge potential for expanding the business for Indian entities. And as you mentioned, the bank, there are huge bank charges levied for conversion of currency if you have an account in India. So this advantage itself is very fantastic for the companies in India for having an account in Singapore and having a company in Singapore. So surely we will.
Absolutely. I guess a bit of a background. Even before these kinds of companies come on board in Singapore, we used to work with the physical banks. Now, EBS and UOB. However, during the initial years and during the last couple of years, their rules have changed a lot. So they have become a lot more conservative than they already were.
Mhm.
So they don't, entertain, or they don't want to try to entertain foreign business owners, ownerships. So it becomes very difficult to open physical bank accounts. It can take 3, 4, 5 weeks, 8 weeks, and you even get nothing.
Mhm.
So neither am I going to wait for 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 weeks. These kinds of accounts we can set up within 1 or 2 days. Yeah.
Okay.
So I want you to, use the track record that you can receive from this particular account, and maybe you can do a physical bank account later down the line. However, because you are able to receive money in and out, then that is the best track record that anybody can get. So please start.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
plus the capital gain tax and the other taxation benefits is definitely going to be a very win-win situation for the companies who are actually at pre-seed A or Series A rounds. So
That's great.
surely we'll be in touch with you, and definitely we will gain more and more knowledge from you and start working together. Yeah. Thank you very
Excellent.
much. Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
Thank you.
Mm.
Thanks everyone for joining.